I want you to picture this. You are driving a car and it's foggy, super foggy. You can only see maybe 15, 20 feet ahead of you. And so you are having to go super slow. You don't know what's coming at you. You have no idea what's going through around you. That is a lot like running your business without having a financial forecast in place. You are simply reacting to the things that you can see immediately in front of you. So how can you fix this? Financial forecasting and budgeting, we can use kind of those terms interchangeably, but the big difference between them, when you're operating off of a budget, those are the things that you are planned for. That's like, if everything remains exactly the same, this is what the expenses that I have will be. And that you can use that budget to kind of tweak, like if we add an extra vehicle, what will that do to my payments or my expenses for the month, the year? But when you're looking at forecasting, that is something that like modeling really comes into play, and you can add in all of these different scenarios to see how that affects your budget. So if you've ever been surprised by maybe a big expense, even if it happens every year, you were just totally surprised by it because you were driving that car in the fog, right? You were only looking at what was right in front of you, and you forgot to look a month or two ahead. And so that insurance premium payment, maybe you pay that annually and you forget that it's due in February of every year. And all of a sudden it's February 10th, your payment is due in 2 days, and you need to come up with $60,000. You have no idea where that's going to come from. So this is a very common thing that if you are just operating without that forecasted budget in place, happens to a lot of people. So here's a couple of tips in order to be more proactive and be looking down the road. First, you want to predict your cash flow. Now, we like to operate off of a rolling 13-week cash flow. So we are always looking at least at the next quarter ahead of us. And so with that, you can plug in those big expenses. One of the ways that we like to do is like pull out the profit and loss over the last 12 months, look at it 5 months and see, did I have any major expenses that happened in February of last year, right? It would help you predict all those things and plug them into your cash flow where they belong. Next, you want to take stock of what goals you're actually trying to reach. Talked about goals a million times on this channel, but knowing where you're wanting to go is actually the most important thing. Like it's like trying to drive to your destination without knowing the route to get there. So adding the fog on top of not knowing where you're even going is definitely a recipe for disaster, right? If you have any big decisions, major purchases, things like that you know are going to happen, being able to time those correctly based on your cash flow, based on your predictions and your goals for your revenue, those are the things that like plugging them into the right spot and knowing if it's even feasible to do some of these things is really a big determinant in how successful you will be in your business. Now, this is something we're going to talk about, like budget versus actuals for a second, because this is where you can really fine tune how good you are at predicting your cash flow. So in QuickBooks, if that's what you're using, on certain packages, you can plug a budget into your QuickBooks, and you can actually run a report that says your budgets versus actuals. This is what you said you were going to spend. This is what you've actually spent. Now, the first time that you do that, you might be way off because maybe you've never tracked your expenses and you don't actually know what you're spending, what's happening in your business. So plugging that in and seeing on a month-to-month basis where you're off and making sure that you adjust for that in the future really dial at your finances. Last reason that you definitely want to have a forecast or budget in place is if you need to get financing, talking to a lender, a banker, or whatever it may be, they are going to want to see not only what you've done in the past, but like what are you predicting that you will do in the future. So knowing if they're going to give you a loan for $100,000, can you actually pay that back? Do you have the cash flow to be able to do that? What is the ROI on whatever it is that you're trying to purchase? Are you adding that into your budget? Adding these forecasted items in and providing them to your lender is going to really like seal the deal on them having faith in you. Forecasting is a super powerful tool. As I've mentioned, it's really only as good as the data that you put into it, much like anything else. So you want to make sure that you are using the most accurate data as possible. Next week, we will talk about KPIs, how to set KPIs to keep your business on track and help you meet those forecasting